Ali, you're out first. You decided on a more agile methodology versus compliance. Maybe you want to introduce the subject, why you chose it, and also bring us into the conversation.
Yes. So what is very interesting from my kind of viewpoint is as I said, the data and process management, and then now when we look at the customers that are looking for a cybersecurity solution, the agile methodology and self-governing teams with quite a lot of end-to-end responsibility for a feature, for example, is quite commonplace, no matter if it's OEM or suppliers. And also you have this interaction across organizational boundaries, so which means that the analysis and the assumptions and requirements from one organization needs to be distributed to other organizations, and also the results and verification should come back from a cybersecurity perspective. And what I've seen also working with functional safety is that, I mean, one challenge is to get this work and data flow working smoothly between these boundaries. And also the competence is a big question, because usually you need to have a lot of competence spread in your organization, or maybe some kind of super users that can help the different parts of your organization to acquire this kind of expertise that is needed from cybersecurity perspective. So the question I want to raise here is, what do you see? How do you see this will evolve, and how can these kind of competences be kind of managed in the best way, and also the communication between the organizations? It's quite a broad topic, but I hope we can get some insights into that. So I just opened the question. I don't know if like Matthias or Eden want to start saying something about it.
Yeah, I think we have the same development here like we have in functional safety. So in 2011, we got a standard, which was not acknowledged, let's say, in 2011. Then we got a phase which was a bit grayish, where I said, okay, you can go for a safe product or the standard. And then 2014, something like that, people said, now we are really 3 years down the road. You really need to follow the standards. Yeah, you need to implement that stuff. We need to distinguish here, I think, for big companies, yeah, so the OEMs and the big tier ones. I think they are part of the committees, they work in that, and they by nature adapt the processes to the standards. So you will get teams there. It will be interesting in smaller companies how they handle it, because that's really the effort they need to do. And yeah, it's how should I say? It will get enforced now. My topic, which I will start in some minutes, it's, for example, the UNECE 155, who simply asks for that. You need to have it going for type approval. So at the end of the day, you will learn fast, you will learn hard, or you go out. That's a bit my opinion.
It's okay, Ali, to also get involved. I agree with you. It's also some of the main challenges that we see that also connect to my topic afterwards. It's the challenge that each OEM has to not only communicate inside the OEM itself. There are some really big OEMs that has their own brands, their own different brands inside each OEM, and they have to communicate inside of it. And sometimes they don't want, even them don't want to share the data and communicate between them. So it's even more challenging. And not only that, we know that each vehicle contains many suppliers. It's not just the OEM and its brand itself. It's also many different suppliers. If it's a big supplier or smaller supplier that sometimes also doesn't want to share its own data. So it's always challenging to try to monitor and detect all of those things and to see those gaps. So that's, I think, when it comes to mind that everyone has to like build themselves some asset management for that. They have to use tools that can collect all this data, and everyone I need and has to participate. It's, as you say, Matthias, because of the regulation, they can decide not to do it, but then their ECUs and the vehicles won't be on the road. So it's up to them. It's slowly improving, but we still have a lot of process in it to get to the great point.
Very nice and very good points that you're raising. I mean, the difference here is also that we have more secrecy also both within the organization and especially among organizations. We see even that that is a part of cybersecurity as well, that you don't necessarily want to expose all your assumptions and all your security case even internally in an organization. So that's an extra level. But if I want to, about the first part of the question, I mean the competence part of the question, what I see is still a question mark in a lot of organizations when it comes to safety, is that how much you can actually transfer this competence about functional safety, or in this case cybersecurity, to the agile teams, and how much of it should you actually manage centrally so you have expert teams that go in, and what are the benefits of each approach, you would say?
I think you need to go along the supply chain for that. And the concept itself, I mean, it's a bit similar to functional safety. The cybersecurity concept, the main defense, is on the OEM side. He needs to decide how he defends the vehicle, how to protect the vehicle. He has to certify that. And then the OEM at the end of the day breaks the concept down, similar to what we have in functional safety, and give it to the ECU suppliers. Say, okay, your ECU has to follow this, your ECU has to do that. And by that, you have the vehicle level competence, I would say, needs to be built up on the OEM. And that's where you say, okay, you should not talk to everybody about how the vehicle is defended, even if you have to, according to legislation a bit. But and then you need to control your supply chain. Yeah, you need to look to your suppliers that they have the competency. So for sure, in the beginning, also we encountered that in the last years. You have a certain transfer from 2701 from IT cybersecurity into the automotive, but we should not forget that automotive, even if it's not named, has a long history of cybersecurity. It's called onboard diagnostics, emission diagnostics, and the first hackers of cars were chip tuner, because they changed the parameter of the car to get more power out of that, maybe violating the emission laws, but that was what they did. And so there is a certain competence in automotive already based on this OBD experience, how to protect systems. Of course, now with connectivity, we bring it to the next level, yeah, that it's in the internet and it's accessible all the time. That's a tech window we didn't have before.
I really agree with Matthias about, I think it's really a great answer. And also, as we see it, as you asked, Gali, is that the OEM is the one which is obligated to choose their own way. It means that, for example, we are, as a cybersecurity company, are not the one to decide to any OEM which action to take. They are the one, on focus on safety, they are the one to know and to be the professional on what they want to put inside the vehicle, what they want to upgrade, if they want to change something in the development. The suppliers and the other third parties in that can only give some information and go along with it, but the OEMs are the ones to decide it. And also in legal terms, they are the one that need to give the answer about it. And so I can see the conflict with using Agile in development, which is more reflecting the IT world, which is the development there is really fast and improved. And we try to use it with OEMs, which are a long history in the processes. There are more strict and the processes are much longer. So it's also a conflict, but for my opinion, it's the OEM decisions.
Excellent. Just keeping time a bit as well, so everyone gets a chance to bring up their topic. We had no hand raises. If you want to have a question, please raise your hand, and I'll bring you into the conversation when it's appropriate. Now, Matthias, we're thinking is it okay for the panel to move on?
We have one hand. We have some hands going up here.
Yeah. Connie Broberg, please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah. That you said for the Agile, don't we need to have the Agile way to solve the software issues? Because we will have a continuous development, and you also need to continuously develop against threats, because the threats is all coming every day, new threats. And that's also, I think, it's very important for the also to make the more modularized software packages and keep track on it, and so you can have different teams doing the development and so to say have this continuous update. So it's yeah. What I see is the problem is that we have we want to update it very often and very easily, but that also would give us more threats. So it's a big challenge, but I think we absolutely need to have this Agile way and somehow have that updated continuously.
I think, Connie, we have to differentiate in two levels there. So when I take that, on the one side, yeah, Agile is a thing we need to be much more flexible now, because we'll have it in a minute. Because the world is really changing. So we have, of course, the drivetrain software or things like that, which are a bit more stable, because the drivetrain will not change immediately, but we will have a lot of software in the interior of the vehicle, and that will go more like mobile phones, honestly. And there you really need Agile. But even Agile, honestly, is too slow on certain points. What you really need is good change management, problem resolution management, and of course, incident management. What we are not used to in automotive, I even take my own nose here, is that you maybe have a response time of 24 hours, something like that. And that you have that 7 years down the road after you release the vehicle to production. That's something we don't do at the moment, at least not in a usual way. So that there we really need to speed up Agile.